Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Nicole Crutchfield, the planning director with the City of Fargo. With me today, kind of co-hosting Rocky Schneider with the DCP and our liaison commissioner for downtown, John Strand. Maybe it's a small group today, so we'll go ahead and have everybody introduce themselves, and then there might be some more folks joining us as we talk over the next hour. So, Terrell, come on up to the table. Maybe just start with Kevin.
Good afternoon, I guess. Kevin Gorder with the engineering department.
Grant Larson, Director of Environmental Health.
Warren Ackley with the Old Broadway, No Bull, Final Taco, and JL Beers.
Victor Heitkamp, Operation Manager, Downtown Fargo Bid.
Rocky Schneider with the Downtown Community Partnership.
Travis Mosier, Captain with the Fargo Police Department.
Michelle Turnberg, Fargo City Commission.
John Strand, Commission.
Hi, I'm Terrell Boxley, Bomb Dog operator.
Well, thanks, everybody. It's a pretty informal setting here, but as you know, we've been talking about push carts for probably about 15 years. This is a program that was adopted in a little less than 20 years ago, and so we thought we'd just do a little overview, talk a little bit about some of the concerns that we're seeing. I know there's concerns on downtown stakeholders, business owners, the vendors themselves, the staff, and so we're here to help see if we can find some solutions. And so I'll do a little quick introduction, and then we'll just kind of open it up for discussion and talk through some items. It is recorded, so just heads up there. So I wanted to be clear, too, what we're talking about is the operation of push carts, not food trucks, push carts on city sidewalks. And that's the only thing that's allowed to vend in the city right-of-way according to Chapter 18 in the municipal code. And so when we're talking about operating the vendors, the food vendors in the public right-of-way, that's what we're talking about today. And right now, to operate, as Terrell knows really well, they have to get 2 permits, one through Grant Larson's office in public health and one from the city planning office. The authority, the reason I'm hosting this today is the authority of Chapter 18 sits with the planning director, and that was probably somewhat of an error when it was originally drafted back in 2006 or so, or back, different reasons, different needs. And so a little bit of highlight of what regulations includes. It includes the size of the cart, the conditions around the cart, the hours of operation, and location limitations. So today, this is a map. I don't expect you to be able to read it all, and we can send this out to you. Basically, to operate a food cart today, there's buffer standards, and these buffer standards require a distance between the door of an operator, of a business, of a restaurant, and between each other. So the red dots here represent the current permit holders for 2025, and the blue dots here represent, as of the time of this map, that was about a year, it's about a year old, the restaurants that existed at the time. And as you can see, Broadway is pretty much full, if you will. And so many permit holders are a few permit requesters this last year asked to get a permit on Broadway, and basically our messaging at the planning department is that Broadway's full, you need to find another location outside of, off of Broadway. And so another unique factor of the city's operations is right now there's only 4, what I would call, Terrell and your company, 4 business owners, and then they hold permits for 9 different locations. And so there's 2 other business owners, or 3 other business owners that hold permits. And so this gives them the flexibility to move their cart or to swap carts out. And basically, and Terrell can explain a little bit more about that if you'd like. In 2025, 2024, 23, and 22, for our downtown stakeholders, there was lots of discussion on downtown safety, noise, congestion, a lot of operational factors impacting downtown, and food carts became a lot of part of that story. We had the performers issues and citations going through that. So in 24, going into 25, we did an extension of our current permit holders because we had unresolved issues with Chapter 18. And now, as we go into 2026, right now I've, under the authority of the planning director, I've only extended the current permits for 90 days, giving us 90 days to resolve some of these tensions. I didn't want to go into another year of 2026 with some of the conflicts we've been dealing. Because as you can see, the police, health, and engineering are just 3 of the departments that work with us on this issue. There's probably 3 or 4 other departments that address this issue. And so it is a situation for our city commissioners that I will be presenting to them at some point in the near future, that, which is why I'm so glad that Commissioner Strand has been part of this discussion with the downtown task force and is part of the DCP liaison, is we have a tension point, if you will, in everybody wanting everything, and at some point something's going to combust, if you will, or pull tension. And so we need to find some solutions because everybody's kind of at odds with these things. And so today is just a start of discussion, and I think at the staff level we have some ideas, but we also appreciate working with Terrell and Charles and Anthony and Chad and Law Dogs. If you've had their food, it's all good food. And so really we're just trying to figure out what do we want to be as part of the downtown future management. So we, in the planning department, will receive concerns and complaints on things like the carts are too big, the heights, the umbrellas, many extra items regarding outside the footprint, if you will, of the cart. We've had carts left out overnight, grease and garbage, noise and loudspeakers. And probably the hardest one we've been dealing with over the last year is operating past 2 a.m., which is a violation, and then carts operating that aren't permanent. So one new factor that we haven't had before is we have vendors showing up that don't even have a permit, and nobody knows who they are, where they came from, and so trying to track that. Other things that we have had is people setting up tents over their operation and operating in times when other events are taking place. And so if there's an event downtown like the street fair or things on Broadway Square, using power off of the city supply, operating peripherally out of nearby parking spots, and then, or setting up in the wrong location. And then I wanted to highlight some of the enforcement difficulty we've had is, some of the enforcement difficulty we've had is through some direct initiative with the police department, we have started about a year ago issuing tickets. Admittedly, probably prior to 2023, tickets weren't really issued that I know of. We would warn people, we would coordinate and communicate, and typically the issues would get resolved. Now we're actually using some heavier police enforcement, and that's becoming problematic. The judges are dismissing the tickets, or now I'm getting subpoenaed to appear at these, kind of court issues, and then folks are just plain out ignoring the tickets, and so now we have ordinances on the books that aren't enforceable, and so we're having issues on what do we do now. And my primary concern, so my background as a city planner and a landscape architect, is actually the congestion and safety on the sidewalks. Our number one responsibility in the right-of-way is trespassing, transporting people and cars and utilities. You know, the right-of-way is rights-of-way for transportation. And so everything else is extra and beyond a public duty. And so that's where I get concerned, because if we start to violate ADA, American Disabilities Act, and related to that, now you'll see we have conflicts with wheelchairs, things like that. So we just have a few complaints that have been issued to us over the years that show just some examples. We have more, but just to get an example of what's related to that. And so I'm now going to hold it to DCP and Downtown Community Partnership. Do you want me just to flip for you?
Yeah, you can flip. There's only 3 slides or something. So I'm Rocky Schneider with the Downtown Community Partnership. We are an organization that has sort of 2 organizations under us. The DCP is a membership organization and advocate for downtown. And we also operate or administer the Business Improvement District. And so we quasi-governmental, working through the bid, and we'll explain what that is if you want to flip slide. So the Fargo's Business Improvement District is the only one in the state, which is always interesting. And it's a taxing district that the city operates and administers, and then they hire the DCP to really be that minister for the city. So I just kind of want to give a quick overview so everyone has the kind of on the same page on what the bid does. You know Victor probably and his team that are out there. They are out there every day. Every business in the downtown district pays into it. We have a number of different zones that pays a different rate. Those on Broadway, where we're primarily talking about, pay substantially more than the other zones, and they get daily service. And so they are funded through that assessment. Here are some of the things that Victor's team takes care of every day. Cleaning, they operate or take care of all the trash and recycling containers and smoking containers up and down Broadway. Everything, basically every public garbage can you see is something they'll empty every day. Sticker graffiti removal on public property. We do a lot of work on the right-of-way, as Nicole was talking about. That's everything from sidewalk, vacuuming to pressure washing, weed control. We're in charge of the planter beds, wipe down the trash cans, so any of the litter or garbage that doesn't quite make it in gets around there. We're in charge of cleaning those and making sure they're clean and safe. We do a number of safety hospitality things. I saw our team out there right now in front of Fargo Theater doing some snow cleaning. So just to kind of clarify, we're not in charge of removing all the snow from all the sidewalks. That's a private entity's responsibility or a public responsibility, depending on the property. But the bump outs on each of the corners where a lot of the carts operate, railroad crossings, and then we help out public works where we can as well. We do provide safety escorts within the downtown area. We are in charge of the pedestrian signs out there, the maps, and you can kind of go right on down the list there. The benches and the cigarette receptacles, the flower baskets you see out there, and just a number of other things we just coordinate with the city on. So that's what BID does. And so I've been in this role for about 2.5 years now. And so food service is not my background, and this wasn't necessarily my background, but as I've put together now a few, 3 different budget cycles of this, you start to ask questions about, our biggest costs, go into some of this stuff as far as pressure washing and trying to figure that out. We also run the street fair and other things that deal a lot with food vendors as well. So I'm learning as I go on some of these things, but I know working with our monthly task force meeting, we have this issue almost every month in some fashion. This topic comes up, and I've been trying to figure out on 2 different aspects. I think there's the bid aspect of this, and then there's the overall safety aspect of downtown that this ties into as well. So if you go to the next page, next slide. So we administer this. Our goal with the public's right-of-way, balancing both the need to enhance the vibrancy of downtown, but also making sure then it sticks to BID's core principles of remaining safe, clean, and maintained. And so I believe that these are all my words on here. So additional food options for visitors like push carts, they enhance the vibrancy of downtown. Charles has nicely danced with me in some of our social media videos. So, I think people love it and they like it, but we also want to make sure we're in balance here. Current city ordinances, as Nicole says we've maybe kicked the can for a little bit on trying to update some of these as we know there's an imbalance here. But the program doesn't really provide a balance of resources necessary to make sure that our bid team can continue to offer the same services on it. And so the $50 permit compared to, the parity issues that are created between that and what a brick and mortar business pays into bid, it shows that there's probably not the resources there. And as working with Victor and our team, we spend an awful lot of time dealing with these areas as well, which is fine if it was part of our bid payment system. Like bars create a certain number of issues for our bid as well, and so do other restaurants, so do every business has their own impacts, but they're all paying in, and so there's a little bit of a balance and parity issue there. That's where I originally came to this, as Victor and took some of those pictures probably, as we're paying for cleaning up the sidewalk, who should be paying that? We pay it, but who pays us? City ordinance provides also little recourse for being able to regulate this. I think that's where I came to this. I brought sort of complaints forward to this downtown task force, to Nicole, and between Nicole and the city attorney, it's, well, we can only do so much. Nicole's warnings are fierce, but most people are not out there enforcing this. And so it's been a struggle to figure out how do you sort of, slap the hands when they're needed. I would say, Charles is probably the best one out there keeping things clean and orderly and everything else. But I mean, there's always impacts from everybody. So I just trying to figure out, not everybody's the best actor in this either. So figuring out where is a penalty, how do you decide who gets a permit? If you're a frequent violator, do you continue to get a permit? Do you get a fine or a fee? Is there a cleanup cost that could go in there? And so looking at a number of people in my role around the country, trying to figure out all the different systems. They all charge something different, or they have a security deposit type thing. A lot of things we don't have, because I think when this program was set up, it was about adding to the vibrancy was maybe the top priority. And now we're sort of figuring out on the back end what makes sense. I'm going to go to the next one. On sort of maybe the other side of things, and I don't want to overstate this, that I think push carts are responsible for some of the issues we've had late night downtown. But you are a sort of a facet of our late night in downtown. And so it's a frequent topic at our task force, and the captain here as well. City ordinances allow push carts operations till 2 a.m. I know there's sort of a little disagreement on the language. Is it last sale at 2 a.m. or operating at 2 a.m.? All those things. But from my standpoint, it's similar to bar closing. Downtown closes at 2 a.m. Roughly. And so I think what we've seen as I'm looking at this is we've seen a lot of violations of this over the summer. The last few summers, probably, I know since I've been around anyways. We have several cameras with some operating until almost 4 a.m. And, Nicole tried with multiple warnings, and I think the warnings worked maybe for a week or so, and then it goes back to the same problems. So multiple days a week over the whole summer, we have operating until well after 3 a.m. almost on a regular. So the city really lacks an enforcement entity, or maybe just lacks the priority to enforce this. I think as a city, we probably all agree that police have probably higher priorities to deal with after 2 a.m. than, checking if somebody's selling too late. But I know we tried to crack down a little bit, but it's just not an effective use of the police time. And so our bid doesn't operate that late. And so a lot of these things, we just don't have a recourse. How do you handle that? And if warnings aren't working, some things got to give. And obviously we've seen in the press, we've had multiple post 2 a.m. incidents in downtown over summer. And I think that's where I've really struggled from our role of trying to manage the vibrancy and safety and everything else of downtown. Is at 2 a.m., we have 50, 60 bouncers working in the bars to zero. The police are all dealing with other stuff. We don't have bid. So there's no regulatory entity after 2 a.m. And while it would be fun to be a 24-hour downtown, we're not, and so we don't have the resources to do that. And so, things that help people linger after we lose all that enforcement, I think is something I want to address, because we don't have the resources for that. So we need to figure out, if we are going to have later nights in Fargo, how do we manage that as a city? Do we ask the city for more resources to help police that? When I think people are inside walls, the private property owners have a responsibility for those people. After hours, who's responsible when something happens? Something happens on the sidewalk. I also administer Broadway Square during the summer. if something happens after 2 a.m., I don't have anybody there, but it happens at, my property, who's on the hook for that? And so there's a number of issues there trying to figure that out, and it's a balance of making sure we stay vibrant at the same time having the city support and resources to regulate it so that people are following the rules too. I think that's the last.
That's kind of the end of our formal presentation part, and I know Terrell and Charles, you're all seeing this for the first time. Everybody's seeing this for the first time. And so just wanted to kind of open up for conversation. I know, Terrell, we've had quite a bit of long conversations about how some of the operational changes have impacted your business, and any thoughts or questions or comments that you want to share with us?
Okay, so informally, just to let you know, I asked him 2 months ago if he could provide proof. I would love for that to be put up to show Soul Taco selling the taco at 4 a.m. I would love to see proof. Has any of y'all seen it?
I've sent you a number of pictures
No,
showing you the
didn't.
timestamps.
You did not.
Past 3 a.m.
Well, let me just interrupt here. I don't know if we're trying to necessarily pass accusations today. We,
It's on the board.
no, commentary for a permit, so just commentary. In terms of, I think you're, as Rocky mentioned, one of the, our routine business customers. We appreciate working with you. We have had good conversations. And so it's, kind of moving past 2024, 25, and as we go into 26 and designing a new program, what are the kind of things that would work better for you? And, we're not issuing tickets from 2025 operations.
Yeah, no.
And
no.
so because what I think we can all agree what's working right now, nothing's working right now. And so we can all agree that, at least at the staff level, I believe nothing's working right now.
Again, I'm going to go down. I've been out there for many years. This man inspired me a long time ago. I worked for him at OB, talked to him years ago. I respect him, and he's motivated me to go out there and create something for myself. I drive school bus, Valley bus. Got a route coming up in a couple hours. Gonna be reffing kids this weekend. I don't do this for a living. I do it to give back to the community because it was a need that wasn't there. And when I was told by the police officers, the nice ones that came up, to stop selling after 2 a.m., I did. Okay? He did too. We take our time cleaning up because we're tired. We're tired because we work at the farmer's market at 8 in the morning. So if you expect someone to be out of there, and like the bars, they don't leave and go and get in their cars at 2 a.m. when the bar closes, and there's not 50 bouncers in downtown. I go out. I'm out there. You're not. I have more experience than you do. You should really ask me first. Get our opinion. I don't know why Anthony is not here, but we're here. I don't know why Law Dog is not here. I asked him to come, okay? I tell them, hey, don't break the rules because you make all of us look bad. When they say someone's dumping grease, and that's what I hear all the time. And I can't stop drunk people from dropping their food. And I'm telling you, the cops will have came to me for years and told me, thank you for feeding them. Because you rather them eat a hot dog or a Philly than drive home with tequila in. Which one? You want someone to eat or do you want someone to drive home drunk? So I gotta ask you that. And as far as, yes, we should be charged. We should add it to it. We add it to be add it along. I agree with you. No, I'm not gonna sit out there and sell food until 3, 4 in the morning. Show me proof that I have. Show me proof that I have. I don't. I want to go home. I'm 41. I'm old. I feel I'm around 21-year-old people. I don't want to be there. And most of the time, I'd rather work in the morning and go home and do nothing. I don't go out at night. And you're talking to the person who runs to people when they're shot and injured. I've been there. I'm a vet. I know how to save lives. I have my CPR license. I help people. People come back and say, thank you. You protect me for those guys. Those food vendors, we protect people because you know what? Hey, oh, whoa, whoa. I've stopped a lady from being kidnapped before the governor built this building. She came back the next year and told me, thank you. Hey, do you know her name? What's her name? He didn't know the lady's name. Hey, no. Then my customers, the ladies grabbed the good lady. I countless stories. Chronicles of a Hot Dog Man. Like, I could tell you, I could do this all day. But as far as just, I clean up. We clean up. Don gets grease up. Trust me. I have a scrub brush. I don't like leaving. I don't want to be blamed. I don't want to be blamed for what someone else is doing. I didn't like it in the Army. I didn't like it with my family. When my mom would say, hey, y'all did this. No, my brother did this. So sitting here saying we're operating until 4, that's not true. Anthony doesn't do that. I don't do that. Charles doesn't do that. He takes his time cleaning up. And yes, we do have the actual financial transactions to show the proof that he didn't. So those emails between me and you.
So I think this brings up the enforcement issue, very transparently. The enforcement issue is literally a he said, she said kind of situation. We have photos, we have film, we have word, we have evidence. And so depending on the night and the hour of the day, it becomes very difficult to track. And, unless we're using body cameras and things like that. And so it becomes, and then on top of it, let's just say there was a violation. One of the difficulties with our Chapter 18 ordinance, the way that, let's say we were going to revoke a permit, because anybody watching this right now, I can just imagine my dad right now watching this saying, why don't you just revoke the permit? And to revoke the permit requires us to bring it to City Commission, and then the City Commission would have this debate in front of you about he said, she said kind of situation. And so it makes it kind of, and so the question to the City Commission is, do you want staff spending time, managing this business? I think everybody's glad to have the vibrancy that the food vendors bring, the push carts bring, and it's really like, how do we set up a system? And so the point of today was to start to co-create a program that could work for the stakeholders. And it's unfortunate, I know time of day might be an issue with some of the vendors, but we haven't heard from any of them. We've invited them, we've asked for them to come, we haven't heard from anyone. And so that to us tells a story as well. And so I know it's the holidays, but everybody's waiting for the permit right now. And so it's a confusing message from a staff level on what we're supposed to do. And I don't know, Charles.
May I ask a question?
Yeah,
Nicole?
of course, Commissioner.
Is it Tyrell?
Terrell.
Terrell.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your service. You sound like a responsible business owner. Do you see people that you don't know that are coming in with push carts and then not being responsible business owners since you're out there?
A few. I can name a few.
So do we
It's,
have
it's not a pandemic of like, oh my God, there's these 10 new guys, they knew that Fargo doesn't, enforce, so we're gonna come up from Minneapolis. No. You have a couple guys that will open up without having their permits with health or the city. And that is a problem. When like I've said to her, I'm like, we following, we're doing the rules, we're commissary, we're doing our best to clean, and then there's 2 other guys that are coming and making us look bad.
Yeah, that's not okay.
Commissioner, just one example, I think of an issue, it's not an us versus the permit holders. It's trying to manage the right of way. We had an issue this summer where somebody did set up, near the Jasper Hotel, and the police were called on it because it was late. And I think one of the people that live downtown knows they weren't supposed to set up there. And so they called the police. Police came down, didn't really have awareness because Nicole's in charge of the program, not the police permit. And so the police talked to them. They seemed like good people. And so they just left, and so it was like, well, wait a second, who are they supposed to call at 11 or midnight when they see a violation, if not the police? And so the next day we had to call again. And, when they were setting up, they blocked Broadway for about half an hour setting up their cart, and I think it's an internal struggle on how do you enforce this when it's sitting in the planning office and it's an after hours thing and nobody's working after hours that late anyways in the planning office to deal with that. And so part of that was just getting everybody on the same page. But also, if we're going to issue permits as a city, it's like we want to protect their spots too, right? And so, there's a reason why we have the spots we do. And so I think this is really about how do you properly regulate this as a city? And I just come from the angle, it's like, if we can't regulate it as a city, that tells a different story, and so it makes it tough to have a program. And I'd love to hear from the permit holders too. We have the pictures, we have issues. $50 permit doesn't cover our costs to manage that. And so we need to figure out how to balance that. And you guys are the better ones out there, but there's still impacts, that $50 isn't covering.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know. I don't know what the other business holders, we don't know. This information is new to us, new to me. And when I say us, I mean like Anthony, Chad, Law Dog. We don't know those numbers, and we're not down. And we're only down there 2 days a week, like possibly Friday night, Saturday night. And when we are invited to private, like the real estate guy, he'll have us do his private. He'll do his private real estate event once a summer or twice in the spring and sometime in like September. And you have a whole bunch of real estate people come in from all around the country, and he'll have his lineup of inside. So we get to park on in the Broadway Square. You know what I mean? So and he's renting that out. Everything's paid, right? But for us, that Charles's regular corner, my regular spot, the other spots, right? Tell us a number, 200, 300. Just let us know. I don't know what they pay a month. Let's just add it to it so that we can't be like, hey, we're not paying our fair due. We want to. Like, you know what I'm saying? Making a difference in the community. I'm going to go drive a bunch of people's kids home safely. You see, I have my permit to do that. I have my CDL to do that. You do everything right. We're trying to do everything right. Tell us how to do it right. We are told to clean up. We want to clean up. We take our time to clean up. I'm tired. I'm a diabetic. I don't have the energy of normal people. So I move slower, okay? He might work all day, and he's going to be tired. If you tell some guy, hey, you're going to set up at the farmer's market and go do a private event, then come downtown, right? He's younger than me. I'm 41. He's 31. He has more energy than me. But, okay, listen, I'm not LeBron James. My hairline might look like it, but you know what I'm saying? We want the city. I love it here. Could I go back to Minneapolis? Yes. Am I asked to move to Minneapolis? Yes. I don't know if y'all know, but I get offers to come to Vegas, go to New York, move to New York. I don't want to. I love Fargo. I want to stay here. I want to be here. I want to make a difference. My daughter is about to be a nurse. She goes, you know what I'm saying? Like, this has been the best decision of my life, is being up here. I'm a dragon, but I wish I was but it's okay. You know what I'm saying? I just that's why I'm here. These other people, I don't know where Anthony is, but these other people, they're going to benefit, you know what I'm saying, from the hard work that I'm willing to do. You know what I'm saying? Someone has to lead, and they all look up to me. So, and people come to me, like Law Dog said it, like, hey, I saw you out there, so I thought I can do it. I'm inspiring other people, and I tell them, hey, lots of people come and ask me, how do you do this? And I tell them, go to the city. I tell, go downtown, go to City Hall, go to the health department, go talk to Chris at the health department, right? Elena, you know what I'm saying? She's my planner. You know, Nicole, they make time. They know I'm trying to help. So that's why we're here, okay? I just, I kind of feel unwanted a little bit, and we would like a hard 2:30. I know y'all say 2, but we want to feed them and get them home. And it takes, and guess what? They're waiting on their Ubers. Look that up. They're waiting on their Ubers for 20, 15, 30 minutes. They're waiting on their taxis. And I tell them, I can't sell them. Every weekend, I'm turning away 45, 50 people because I'm obeying this rule. I don't want a $100 ticket. I could speed in Fargo and get a $10 ticket. But they were handing out $100 tickets. But then there's a guy that's setting up in front of OB with no permit. And we aren't.
So Warren, do you want to share some comments?
That's a good segue. Thanks, Trell. Some of this you just brought up. The fees are one thing that needs to be adjusted. I mean, it's relatively a small number for everybody that's involved with this. You know, from the health department to the police department to bid. That has to be looked at. It needs to be fair, for everybody. But that needs an adjustment. You can go look at Detroit Lakes, what they charge for food permits. It's much different than Fargo's. So you need to look at that. I did want to ask one question about the number of feet from a restaurant entry. Is that in the law or the ordinance?
Yes, it's 60 foot from an entry of a restaurant.
50 feet?
60, I think.
60?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's what happened, Terrell, at the old Broadway. They just set up without a permit right in our front entry. He also, I don't know if the fire department's here, but he also had an open fire that night. It was crazy. So that's why some of this has come up, for me, and then the other gentleman that does set up, and I don't know if he's 60 feet from our door, but he's from the nightclub door. He's the burger guy, and he does leave a heck of a mess. The one thing he doesn't bring with him is a garbage can, which is very interesting to me. So the 60 feet needs to be looked at. We're trying to, there's 62 restaurants in downtown Fargo. There's going to be 3 more probably closing soon that I worry about. I won't be one of them, but it's concerning. We just lost a restaurant last week, and I'm concerned about that. So just to have the 60 feet, it should it be more? I don't know, but we need to support the brick and mortars downtown too. I understand the fabric and of the energy of the area, but we need to protect. We're spending a lot of money for bid. We're spending a lot of money on our taxes, to keep these restaurants open, and they're not all successful right now. It's not a great time in the restaurant business. So I would just like to see the fees looked at, and also the feet from an entrance to a facility, and as well as the 2 a.m. thing. That all started at the old Broadway. Again, he was open till 4 in the morning, and that causes a problem because we don't want to send our people out there, and the police don't want to be there. There's a lot of people. When all the bars close downtown at 2, they all come down that end of town, and it's an issue for safety. And that's a big issue for downtown right now. and we need to address that.
So the fun thing, pardon me, Nicole, is that the people that, my usual people that would walk down, I turned them away for 2 months. Where they're staying, he just verified it. They're being served by the guy who's down there illegal, and possibly the other guy, but I'm obeying rules.
Does anybody know who this other guy is in front of the OB?
I don't know who
She
it
knows.
was.
I told her.
Elena?
I emailed her.
No.
Okay.
We know it exists, but we don't know who they are,
No,
what
no.
permit holder they are, food cart they are.
Warren,
Oh, we can find out who they are, Terrell.
Warren,
Yeah. we
Like
can
the name
find
of the
out.
company, because then that's how we coordinate our work. Yeah.
One more thing, it's interesting for me this week. I was trying to help promote the new ramp. And so I thought, hey, I'll get one of these signs, that they could, the fluorescent signs to put on the street. Oh, I can't get that. I can't get a permit for that sign on a public street. Impossible, can't do it. So I'm thinking about buying a food cart license and put up a sign.
Hey, let's go. I'll show you how to do it.
So, anyway, it's just kind of a weird thing. And then the other strange thing about that, when you talk about from the door to a restaurant, 60 feet, if that's what it is, on these signs, I found out to put a sign by a billboard, you got to be 500 feet away from a billboard. He had a better lobbyist than we have, for sure. So to put up one of these portable signs, it's got to be 500 feet from a billboard. Amazing. And so it was just all came up this week, and I thought that was interesting as well.
Warren, do you stop serving food at a certain time at night?
We stopped serving food?
Do you stop? Like, is
We stop at 9 o'clock.
food stops at 9?
Right.
And what time do you guys begin your
After 9.
service? After 9.
After 9.
So there's no conflict
None.
for food?
None.
Is it possible, I'm just brainstorming,
yeah,
to have, do you already have specific spots? Like,
Yeah.
like you've been around for a long time, so you have your spot?
Yeah.
Like, we just have a certain amount of spots that are okayed and approved, and if these ghost people show up that don't have any permit or aren't following any regulations, then we know automatically to get rid of them?
All we can ask the captain. I don't know if they know, but we know and we obey and we don't jump around. Okay, it's like, look, you have to be the first one to apply for the spot, go through be approved through all 5 of the departments, and do everything the right way. But as far as that, they did tell someone to get out of his spot, as Rocky said. Like, some guy showed up to his spot before he got there, and I was like, yeah, I know. So it happened. It's happened only a few times, right? And the city got rid of one spot that was in between Juicet and Fort Knox, right? There was actually a 60-foot gap. So, and I was like, oh, okay, I tried to move closer to OB, but his restaurant, his breakfast restaurant, he knows his hours. I know that it's a restaurant. That door, that corner, 60 feet, you can't be. When you look at the map shows the zoning area, and the zoning area crosses the street, so it's 60 feet crossing into Fort Knox, and Fort Knox has a restaurant in there. So those 2 zones are intersecting. Then there's a small space, but it would cause congestion, like ridiculous. And if you're watching, because Fort Knox has a fence, so you can't walk around and you can't squeeze. So, and when she says congestion, I know I'm up against the building and trying to have 6 feet, right? And there's video, because I know when they're recording and they're walking by, I was like, oh, okay, the city's recording, right? They walk by smoothly. And if you're in control of your customers, hey, can you guys face this way so people can walk by? It's not that hard. But a lot of people are just trying to, they're not thinking about the congestion. They're not thinking about the cars that are parking. They're not thinking about the cars that are getting out of there and driving fast. I think that those cars noise that's a big problem. car noise is incredibly ridiculous.
Officer Mosier is an officer now, or did you get a promotion?
I think we gotta call him
What is
Captain.
it? Captain Mosier. Is it possible, because I remember being in college, and I totally get the bars closed, and to have the opportunity to grab some food while you're waiting for your Uber. We didn't have those back then, but to me, that makes total sense. Can we keep food carts open till 2:30? And can you clean up in a half hour, or how long is a normal cleanup?
I would say give us 1 hour. I mean, we're talking about if you are closing at 2:30 solid, and we're talking about no more food, because most people they're gone by 2:30. They're gone. It's
Yeah.
just the people that don't like to leave his wonderful
Right,
bar
right.
and his space. They're making their way down to Boss's Pizza, who's selling food
Well, yeah,
out of a window. So, and indoors. So there's restaurants open. We're not the only option. If you want pizza, go get pizza.
Would that be legal in the city for them to remain open until 2:30 as people are waiting for Ubers and rides home?
Well, the ordinance currently is 2 AM.
Too.
So,
But something we could look at.
yeah, and the problematic part for us, and Nicole is way more knowledgeable than I am, but a lot of the parts of this ordinance are not enforceable by the police department. So when you get into a lot of the things like the 60-foot rule, the tents, if they have proper garbage cans, if the, coolers and all those types of things are not enforceable by the police department. That falls under planning. We can enforce the 2 AM rule because that's an infraction, so we can cite them if they're operating past 2 AM. But all those other violations within the ordinance, that falls within planning.
And I don't know how much time we want to take away from police with issues like this, but if we create, I'll come to a conclusion of what would work best for the city and present it to the city commission and make an ordinance. Is it then enforceable, or is it not for police?
Yeah, I think, maybe just jumping to and we have the room till 1 o'clock, so we can stay as long as people are interested in the discussion. But, the next steps that we were so there's no doubt Chapter 18 in the ordinance needs to be redone. And so as we redo the ordinance, and so there's the ordinance piece, and then there's the operations piece. And so there's a lot of changes that need to happen operationally, and then there's a lot of changes that need to happen ordinance-wise. So we're trying to get that vision of what everybody wants first, so that we can then go write whatever we need to write. I think part of the question is, how much, for the city commission, how much do you want staff to spend time trying to solve for this issue? And when, Terrell or others can go on private property, rent spaces like over at the Great Northern Bikes, and be on a public, they could be at this, if we wanted to coordinate a system, they could be on Broadway Square or on the City Hall Civics Plaza, right? If we want to get people out of the congestion space, of course, that's not really great for business probably, because who wants to walk over there when it's 20 degrees below zero? But it's, that idea is, a lot of cities will have that off public property. So it's really about, do we want to create a space, kind of like where Fort Knox at, do we want to create a space where it can be like a court, if you will, or do we want to keep having this on public sidewalks?
I don't think this is that hard. I mean, we've got two responsible business owners here. Warren knows what he's doing with brick and mortar. I think we can just put our heads together and this should be easy to fix. Do you guys like the idea of a food court? Like all the things, or is that counter?
It's super dangerous.
It's not good?
No,
Okay.
if you can look in Europe where the guy literally drove through a food court.
Well, we don't want that.
It happened last year in Stockton, California. It happened in Oakland, where they just, I don't like you, he doesn't like him. They opened up fire in front of that. So the spacing it out is safer if you look at it.
Sure.
But to answer the question, the 2:30 is great because, and I think that it should be enforced. Like literally, if you catch anything, this exchange after 2:30, pay the fine. And none of us, or me, Charles, Pennies, none of us have gotten a ticket because we've obeyed the law.
Well, I think you guys know what you need to be successful. We just need a list of that. And do we just have set places right now? Is there a number of spots? And those permits are filled, and if you're number 10 and we only have 9 spots, then you don't get to have a food truck in Fargo. And if someone shows up, then you're gone. And if you don't have a garbage can, you're out of here.
Oh, and fun fact, every business that has been inside of Fort Knox has went out of business.
So a
And
couple,
so the food court concept has not worked.
so a couple of things with that, Commissioner. So the 2:30 timeframe, that's not going to make a huge impact on what we can do, because one thing we're up against is whether it's 2 a.m. or 2:30. I mean, if you're talking Fridays and Saturday nights, I mean, obviously our officers are extremely busy, so the chances of them having time to allocate to that enforcement has been a huge hurdle for us, because we have all the other stuff going on in the city right at the bar close time. So whether it's 2 a.m. or 2:30, that's not really going to, in my opinion, help us too much. The other issue that we found out with even just the 2 a.m. close, and I think you would see it with the 2:30 close, is, and Nicole kind of touched on it a little bit, there's a lot of ambiguity into that, okay, what does that mean at 2 a.m. to be closed? Because we had an incident where officers were downtown, they saw a vendor open for business and was distributing food past 2 a.m. So they cited the vendor. He was able to show the city prosecutor that that person actually paid at like 1:55. But what happened is these people were paying before, but obviously they're waiting for their food, but they're being served after 2, and that's why the case got dismissed.
So for the library, we hire private security because we have so many problems. Could we just take this off the police plate and add a few private security officers that enforce this? It would be a much lower cost. They could know exactly what we decide is appropriate and in the ordinance, and have those people dedicated to enforcing the city.
I don't know if they
So,
would have the authority. to do that.
Commissioner, I think the two, I tried to separate the two things, because I think the bid issues just comes down to the cost, right? I mean, it's a parity thing there, and I think those are easier to solve. I think where our friction has been on our monthly task force, and, I've spoken up pretty firm on some of this, is when we see a violation, not just from permit holders, but from non-permit holders, the city has kind of said, hey, we don't have any resources to enforce that. And it's, so, I mean, and especially down at Old Broadway, it's not just the food, there's masses that hang out there past 2 a.m. that aren't coming out of the downtown bars even, and the police don't have the enforcement ability to even break up the crowds that are there.
That's why I'm saying
And so it's-
private security like we have at the library to break. There's bad stuff that happens at the library, and they handle some pretty violent situations. But just for monitoring, so you're able to do your job and focus on more important crime issues, and then this is just dedicated to, following the city ordinances. It would be a lower cost.
I think you'd have to get an opinion from the city attorney to see if I don't know if private security would even have the legal recourse to enforce these permitting things.
Yeah, I
So
think part of the issue is that we're on public right-of-way.
Yep.
And so that's where, listening to our former city attorney, Nancy Morris, I can hear her now. But Commissioner Strand, did you have any comments? I saw your mic go on a couple times.
I have a few thoughts. At one point, I'd like to know from the folks who provide these services, Terrell and Charles, what should it look like eventually? What are your inputs to make this the best we could make it? I'll stick my foot in my mouth, but one of my thoughts is the bigger picture. If bars haven't always been open till 2 in downtown. And is that the ideal time? And what are the results of having what time you close? And I think that conversation is also a ripe conversation to have, real frankly. Not just the food and not just the access, but the bar times and what the implications of those are. In my mind, that should be also talked about in the bigger picture of the activity downtown.
I like to add pros and cons to everything, right? As Nicole pointed out, it's a big area. Broadway's a big area. And I think one of the options, we should have several options, but food courts do work because I know I'd like to provide equality. It's nothing against these guys do a great job. We also have mobile food trucks that can't get in there because they're mobile. If we had a food truck or if we had a food court, there'd be more variety and more people and and then we could maybe enforce that because it'd be confined to an area. And then we could do some kind of look at more law enforcement or do those actions. Then we would know anybody that was in there would be permitted through the health department, permitted through whatever we needed to do. So I think it's just one of the staff options to do is to have a central location because then you'd have the garbage cans, you'd have all that stuff, you'd have everything confined in one place. There's pros and cons, but I think that's also a valid option to provide a little bit of equality to the other people that might want to come in and serve food.
Kevin or anybody else that wanted to speak? I don't want to discourage anyone else, Victor or anybody?
No, I'm just really listening, just kind of how it affects the right of way, primarily ADA type stuff, crossings, stuff like that. So it's pretty simple stuff.
I mean, that is another issue. I mean, most, like Anthony's right outside my office at the lunchtime at the Mac Daddy's truck, and we had an issue for a while where his people would sort of store their stuff in the planter bed, and simple conversation solved that, right? And so, I mean, a lot of those things we can solve, but it's also not necessarily on us to enforce the ordinance either, and so it's like who from the city, that's kind of where we're coming from. Our advocacy side is who's enforcing this at the city? Is it really on individual businesses to come out and say something to them? Because when we bring the issues to the city, you're dealing with other stuff. This isn't the top priority, and that makes sense too. But it's like, don't have an ordinance and a program if you can't enforce it either. And so I think that's been the struggle for us on these discussions on a monthly basis. It's understandable, it's just a friction.
Yeah, I just want to clarify one point too, Commissioner, when you talked about the individual who sets up in front of the old Broadway, and we find out that person doesn't have the permits, even if they look at the officers on scene and say, yeah, we don't have a permit to be here, we can't make them leave. We can't enforce them to leave.
Is that our fault for not having that in city ordinance, or how do we fix that?
I don't know. I mean, those are some of the things that we'll look at with our city attorney. I think, can you impound the cart and haul it away? You could potentially, as part of the ordinance.
I mean, I'd like to make your lives easier, your business easier, Warren happy with his brick and mortar, and not make extra work for you. So if we can figure out how to do this and enforce it and keep the bad actors away, I think that would be the priority.
Because currently, right now, the only thing that we are enforcing on the food, on the push car stuff, is the 2 o'clock close time.
Ian's going to be busy.
So that's the only thing we can currently enforce.
Well, I'm okay with the police taking my cart away from me if I'm in the wrong spot. And if I'm open past 2:30, I'm okay with paying the cost of whatever that fee is. But if you do something crazy, or Ian, that's the attorney, and he says, hey, $200 ticket if you sell anything past 2:30, I bet they won't do it again. You tell me if that makes sense. If someone says, hey, you're caught speeding, I get to take your car. You see what I'm saying? Like, and here's the fun part. You can put that on paper and they have to agree to it. The vendors have to agree to it.
And we already have that as part of our permit.
That you can take our cart away, or the
That
permit.
we revoke a permit, and so, I mean, simply we can start revoking permits, but then again, you're going to be hearing all these testimonies in front of city commission every Monday night. And
Well, we have rules, and if you don't follow the rules, you're out of there.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a lot scarier to speed in Minnesota. Sorry. North Dakota, it's like nothing. But $300 if you're, going too fast on the interstate in Minnesota, my cruise control is on. So I get what you're saying.
But as a food vendor, a $100 ticket, no. I said no, like after that,
And I'll bring, I mean, this is all rational, but there's still nobody at the city that's enforcing something at 2 a.m. And so we can have the rational discussions like, yeah, nobody's going to do it if you have a $100 ticket, but I fought every month to try to get this enforced And I think we ended up with, one time like a sting to get out there at 2 a.m. because I get it. You have way more important things to do. And so I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do as a downtown when you have ordinances and people setting up in the wrong spots, potentially health issues setting up in the wrong spots, and the city says, well, we don't have anybody that works at 2 a.m. Planning doesn't want to go out at 2 a.m., obviously. And so that's the struggle where
Well, I think
can't
Ian
just have a
can
rational
clarify this, perhaps. I don't know, he can clarify it, and if we had private security, and if they're just taking pictures and documenting and getting IDs, maybe they can't arrest, but we can keep them from coming back. I mean, maybe there's some sort of way where police aren't being taken away from serious crime, but we have other people that could
Yeah, I
could
think
do
there's some
it.
ways to privatize some aspects of this, if this is something we want to do. Some of the brainstorming we've done between the DCP and staff is, just kind of big picture things, everything from demarking on the city sidewalk, where is your spot, and if you're outside this blue line, you're outside the spot, so then it's less about the size of the cart, it's more about, because these carts are all different shapes and sizes, and trying to measure exactly gets a little difficult. Also, another concept is, again, outsourcing this and privatizing it, and with either a contractor, et cetera, and increase the fees. Honestly, in our, they say not to say numbers casually, but if I were to assess the financial cost, it'd be at least $5,000 to $7,000 a permit in terms of the amount of staff time that goes into this. And so I'm not including the bid cleanup stuff. And so I think part of it that I will include as part of these comments, this has been great discussion, and I think what I'd like to do is include this pros and cons list and then show the cost factor. And so if you want to look at, if we're at a back to basics budget, and, you think about who, to Rocky's point, police is at their limit, some budget, planning's at their limit, I'm losing positions. I don't know the status of your guys' departments, but, everybody's pretty limited. And so when we think about what's above and extra beyond what's responsible for the city, the responsibility in the right-of-way is simply transportation. And everything else is extra. And so can we privatize that extra? Can we outsource it? Can we find other creative ways to get the extra benefit without putting it on the taxpayers' back? And so that's part of, the budget issue, and is kind of my thought.
So Nicole, one of my thoughts always is, what have others done? How have others skinned this cat? And what solutions do other communities have that we could learn from? I'm sure there's lots of examples out there like that. I'd also, and we've talked about it before, I'd like to know what the people want and think. Rather than acting absent their input, I want to know the citizens and their thoughts and best thinking as we go forward, because we don't want to counter their desires, but if we find the sentiment is what it is, that's an input I think would be valuable.
Well, I don't think this is necessarily a public meeting, but I don't know, would you like Mr. Cohen to speak? Yeah, it's not a, again, it's not a
maybe
public
just while
meeting.
he's coming up, I think it's good to know, this program isn't paying for itself, right? So, taxpayers are subsidizing this program, and I think there is value in having this as a vibrancy aspect to downtown. I think it's fun. I think it makes it more fun to come downtown, but there's a cost to it too. And so I think getting that balance and understanding the cost makes a lot of sense.
So I'm Christopher Cohen, Fargo resident. So what's not answered here to me is why aren't some of these things infractions or not? So I think Captain Mosier, you said that the after 2 a.m. is an infraction. It can be enforced by the police. What about blocking the right-of-way? What about throwing grease on the sidewalk? what about these other things? Who would enforce those? Do we need more infractions as part of the ordinance? And then police say that they don't have the time to enforce any of this anyway. So then who would enforce it? So now in the past, I've talked about having alternate response teams for non-police actions, and that's been ignored by the city commission. And there's a lot of better situations in which we could have alternate response teams that could be much less expensive than using the police for that. So maybe think about that and this idea, or private security, I don't know.
I was just going to mention, I think this might be common knowledge now, but if vendors are on private property, there's no time limit. They can operate 24/7. This is just tied to Chapter 18, just so you know that. So then all of the stuff we're talking about, regulating and enforcement, goes back to the private property owner, and they can set up and they can serve food every day, all day.
And
Yeah,
just
I
maybe
guess-
for that, you know, I mean, Charles is right at the corner of Broadway Square, and we've had the conversation, do we want to rent out space at Broadway Square that would do that? You know, then we'd be in charge of all these issues. We've brought up all these concerns, and it would factor into what you charge them. I think from the city standpoint, it's tough because you have difficulties enforcing it on public right of way, and also, you know, trying to make it fair across the board where a private entity can charge whatever they need to charge, and it either works or it doesn't. But you know, we're 5 feet away probably from that right now at Broadway Square. And so we'd see value in that. We obviously see it for, you know, the Hatch event and other events we do at Broadway Square. And so I think that's something we'd consider.
How many events do they have in Broadway Square, do you think, a year?
This summer, we had 59 hosted events.
59?
And then days of activation, I think we were at 180 days this summer where we activated it with music and blue blocks and had staffed.
So are all these events, whether it was private or public, like events like,
Broadway Square is a private entity, but there's a public aspect partnership to it.
okay. So, and how many weekends was that? Or so is that like essentially one every weekend? That sounds about right, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all days of the week. I mean, 59 events.
Okay, so Anthony is out of like the state most of the summer, and then he comes back in the fall. And we are all around this, in between Moorhead and Fargo, and as far as we want to go. Like, you know what I mean? If I want to go here or go to Minneapolis, the Taste of Minnesota, car show here, car show there, Aberdeen, we're not really there, like, as you would think. So to charge us are you charging us for a weekend? Do you imagine that? Or charging us for the days that we're there?
No, I just say if it's on a private property, I mean, I think they can figure out what the actual costs are and figure that out easier for each property. We've seen that, I mean, it successfully works downtown in multiple different locations right now.
Okay.
Where there's food trucks. And so, I mean, I think the market does it, Street Fair does it. We figure out on these time periods what it costs and what you need to charge for it, so.
And the vendor's license are actually voided when the street fair or other events or
Right.
inside. So technically, we're not really there, right? If the people are not there, we're not there. Like the
Yeah,
people.
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking, Trail.
What have you noticed that we're there when the people are there? Going back to his question. We are there because the people want us there.
Yeah, I think the push carts add a vibrancy to downtown. I like push carts. I buy tacos.
Okay. So when we're not there, do we take away from the vibrance?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to know that.
There's just a cost operating your business too that you're not paying for right now. And I think that's my struggle is because my team is paying for a lot of the cost.
No, taxpayers are paying for it. No.
No.
No,
So-
just to clarify, this is maybe a good question for the comment for the public and anybody watching. DCTP, Downtown Community Partnership's a private entity.
Yeah, we're a private entity, and the bid gets paid for by, private businesses that pay an assessment into it. The general taxpayers, the general budget at the city doesn't pay into it. Old Broadway pays into it, Wasabi pays into it, you know, each other restaurant pays into the bid. And so when the bid spends a considerable amount of time and effort cleaning up after, you know, food carts, push carts, there's a cost to that. And I think there's a benefit to it too, for sure. But the costs are being borne on the brick and mortar businesses right now to clean up the grease spots and the litter and the trash. And so there's just a parity there. And I think we can make up those costs, whatever the right permit amount is, like a private business would. If you were on a private property, they have to charge whatever they, you know, agree upon with the push carts, because that's what it costs them to operate the business.
Would anything work like how Roberts Alley has invigorated that part of town? I know like near Magnolia Soap, they have terrible problem with crime in that alley, but what if we cleaned it up, lit it up, and blocked it off and had food carts, and then made people aware of food carts? Is that bad for you? Like, because it would help clean up. We could make it look good. You'd have, you know, in the one space, you're not blocking, you know, blocking any handicap access. It's just an idea, just brainstorming. No bad ideas with brainstorming, right?
No, it's not a bad idea. The boiler room has went out of business. The ice cream shop that was in there has went out of business. Every business that has been in Fort Knox parking lot, gone. I'm speaking from a lot of experience. So, sure, put us all in one spot and see what happens. No, I'm just
Come
saying.
up with a, you know, something detrimental to your business, just brainstorming on how that might revitalize part of downtown, because it's a bad place right now. But if we draw people there, you know, make it attractive, make it a meeting place.
Yeah, and back to what he says, I know the city knows, they have video, they are walking by, they're seeing who's collecting trash, who's making that. I can't stop someone from throwing their hot dog halfway down the street I can't stop them. They're a drunk person, most of them can't even hold their food. You have to hand it to them. Hey, you got that? Oh, okay. And then they grip it and then they still drop it. And then I'm like, man, I gotta deal with Rocky. And he's gonna be mad at me. And I have my Dawn detergent inside of my hot dog cart, and I have my scraper, so when I take a long time cleaning up, because if you look back, and he's recording, 10, 15 people dropped their macaroni. So now I'm trying to clean up macaroni. I'm down there until 3:30.
I will just say from downtown standpoint, we have one of our most successful restaurants in Roberts Alley. And I think there's a lot of vibrancy in those alleys too.
No, not like that's not vibrant at all.
That's Graver Alley, it's a private alley.
Graver.
But I'd say,
I'm just saying, and it could be anywhere, I don't know all the alleys, but just something, Roberts Alley is awesome.
I just want the
It is.
impression that, I mean, Roberts Alley, we have one of very successful businesses.
No, I'm implying that I love Roberts Alley. If we could recreate something like that to make it vibrant with food trucks.
Well, I think it's a, you know, maybe as a concluding statement here, it is important to understand how these pieces all play together, and, you know, placemaking, vibrancy, economic development, public taxpayer costs, private responsibility, you know, it all gets folded into this complex mess. And, you know, we're trying to sort it out. Chapter 18, you know, you probably remember Warren, but it was written for kind of a particular purpose and a particular issue. And that purpose and issue is maybe gone away. And so it definitely needs some remodeling, if you will, and trying to figure out what the city's priorities are as part of that, and balance with the downtown's priorities as a whole will be our goal. We'll try to get that figured out within the next 90 days. And
Would
hold
you
me
be
to that.
interested in hearing maybe from everyone here who's an expert in their own field, not including me,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
pros and cons, like what you guys need and cons of what don't work, and the same for Rocky, Victor, Warren, people who have brick and mortar, and maybe we can just compile everything, take a look at it, see what Detroit Lakes charges, see what other cities charge, and then reconvene and
Yeah, absolutely.
see, and then talk to Ian, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've talked to Anthony, and he said it. Yes, we are for increasing. We know that. We agree with you. And I look at it like I'm only down there maybe, like I stopped like after the shooting that happened. I was there that night. I saw it. I was there a few summers ago, physically. Cleaned the blood off me. I try and make a difference. That's it. And if I don't feel like I'm wanted, and you know, I felt that way, so we essentially stopped coming out, so that we can't be blamed for food on the street or a grease spot from, you know what I mean? We're trying to do everything that you want us to do, and we did. Don't operate after 2. We stop. Okay, but we're begging if we can, you know, well, you got video proof. So that after this thing, we stopped. Okay? Because we're asking for a grace period. Let's try it out. If you want to try the food court thing, I won't be there. I'm going to let you know that right now. That's just too dangerous. That's what I told the city commissioners. It's dangerous. I don't want someone to, turn their vehicle into a battering ram. I'm just, unless y'all gonna put up those big.
We have police barricades that we bought.
No, the ones that can actually, the metal ones.
We have the big ones. We spent a lot of money on them.
So, you know, protect us. If this is your idea, that you finally conclude, let's put them all in, try it, cool. Like you know what I mean? But I love being out there. I love the people. I love Fargo. Been the best place that I've ever been. Do I want to go back to Minneapolis? No. I appreciate everyone listening, and it's always a pleasure working with the planning. They do their best. And yeah, thank you.
Well, with that testimony, we'll conclude the meeting. Thank you, Charles, and everybody else for being here.